You may have noticed we haven't posted an original episode in a while, and that is partly my fault. I have been suffering from a really bad case of writer's block. When I sat down quite a few weeks ago to write an episode, I just could not come up with a good topic. Sure, we have a list we use for ideas, and granted, Tiffany and I talk a lot, like all of the time.
All the time.
And we come up with ideas simultaneously. You should see the notes section on my phone. But this time around, it was different. You know, it's almost as though it wasn't that I couldn't write about a certain topic. It was as though I didn't want to write about any topic. And I'm not alone in this. You know, Tiffany and I felt the same in that there's a lot going on in the world in this moment. And as a business owner, you cannot ignore what potential consequences it could have for you. Nearly everything that is going on in the world right now has a butterfly effect that trickles down all the way to you and me and her. So she and I thought we would begin peppering seasons with episodes such as this. Episodes where we're going to discuss recent issues and events and the ways in which they impact the economy and small business. Neither of us will take a biased stance, or at least we'll do our best not to, or lead you to believe that we have a biased stance so that you have the opportunity to truly gain perspective and form an opinion that is all your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in saying that, it would be incredibly ignorant of us to not start a discussion-focused episode with the recent presidential debates, most specifically the vice presidential debate, and one of the topics of which they spoke, of which was the proposed budget that each of the presidential candidates are bringing to the table. All right, let's roll up our sleeves and dig through the dirt to get to the core of what these nominees are planning for us, what it could mean for us, both positive and negative, and in the end, what's it truly going to cost us? Welcome to our show, The Business Behind Small Business. In every episode, or most episodes, we dive into one area of what you need to build a lasting business. We start our show by peeking behind the curtains of someone else's success, and we're going to be doing a little bit of that here too. And then drill down to how you can apply it to your own business. We are your hosts, Savannah Stone and
Tiffany Ko.
No one gets to $1 million without getting a little dirty. There's a lot of business behind small business, so let's get to it. So
It's okay. Let's dive in.
we are going to go Mad Max straight Thunderdome today. During the vice presidential debates, a budget model created by the Wharton School, which is the business school of the University of Pennsylvania, a private Ivy League research university in Philadelphia, was referred to by the moderators of the debate. They asked the VP candidates to speak to the budgets that their respective presidential nominees have planned if they are elected. We've included the links to these models for your reference and are going to speak solely on these models so as to keep our conversation both clean and non-circuitous. Big word. Since we have a lot to cover today, we're not going to do a full famous example, but I thought it would be kind of cool to know the background of the Wharton School because it is actually kind of cool. So I pulled this from Wikipedia. Don't sue me. And we're going to have that linked as well. And so I quote, Joseph Wharton, a native Philadelphian, was a leader in industrial metallurgy. He built his fortune through the American Nickel Company and Bethlehem Steel Corporation. As Wharton's business grew, he recognized that business knowledge in the U.S. was only taught through an apprenticeship system. And such a system was not viable for creating a wider economy during the Second Industrial Revolution. And when I read that paragraph, I was like, he's right. People only did apprenticeships. No one really went to school for anything. So anyway, after 2 years of planning, Wharton in 1881 founded the Wharton School of Finance and Economy through a $100,000 initial pledge, making it the first business school established in the United States. ESC Europe, established in 1819, and a few other business schools were established in Europe prior to Wharton's founding. The school itself was meant to train future leaders to conduct corporations and public organizations in a rapidly evolving industrial era. Wharton was quoted as saying that the school was meant to instill a sense of coming strife, of the immense swings upward or downward that await the competent or the incompetent soldier in the modern strife. From the founding of the school, he defined that its goal was to provide for young men special means of training and of correct instruction in the knowledge and in the arts of modern finance and economy, both public and private, in order that, being well informed and free from delusions upon these important subjects, they may either serve the community skillfully as well as faithfully in offices of trust, or, remaining in private life, may prudently manage their own affairs and aid in maintaining sound financial morality. Yada, yada, yada. The school was renamed the Wharton School of Finance and Commerce in 1902, and then formally changed its name to the Wharton School in 1972. I thought it was pretty cool.
You're such a geek. I love it.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Anybody
who like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, who doesn't care for it is probably like,
I'm sitting here going like, what am I in for? What am I learning? Like, oh, okay. You're such a geek.
I know. I can't help it. But I just thought it was really cool that this gentleman who made lots of money could have been like, I'm making lots of money and I'm going to spend it like like it's going out of style, which is what a lot of people in his time did. But instead he was like, you know what? This could be had by everybody. Why should we all be given fish? Why can't we all learn how to fish? And so he established a fishing school. He was like, everybody needs to learn how to fish. And I think that's fantastic, because how different is that from what we do? It's not that different, except.
Well, clearly there are a lot of fishers now. So
yeah, exactly. So to start, we're going to summarize, and then we're going to drill down on each of the plans, the positives, the negatives, and the impacts that they could have on you. So, all right, Tiffany.
do you want me to summarize it?
Yeah, the key differences between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's proposed economic plans.
Yes, just so you know, I'm not. Yeah, see, I watch the debates and stuff, and half the time I'm sitting there going, crap, I'm not smart enough for half of this crap. It's like sometimes it's like a foreign language, and it's ridiculous because, I know I'm a smart person. You're a smart person. All of our listeners are probably smart people. But how many people actually follow half the stuff that they're referencing in this debate? So I'm kind of glad we're doing this, because it kind of helped me slow down and say, all right, let's break this down in a way that my little pea brain can understand, apparently. Mm-hmm. And who knows? Maybe it'll be helpful for anybody else out there who is equally confused or feels like it's equally convoluted. So breaking it down.
It helps to start. We're going to summarize and then drill down on each of their plans, the positives and negatives, and the impacts that they could have on you. Here are the 4 key areas between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's proposed economic plans that we're going to be focused on: taxes, spending, economy, and debt.
So let's go over, and again, we're trying to simplify this as much as possible. There's a lot of fluff words everywhere.
Yes.
But, for us, it's, okay, let's just break it down to what it is in its essence. And then that way we can kind of discuss it. And at the end of the day, make a dotted line from what this means for small business owners and small businesses.
Right.
So Harris' plan for taxes is mostly focused on raising taxes on the wealthy, especially through things like taxing long-term investments. Capital gains is probably something everybody has heard of, and then also possibly increasing taxes on high-income earners. For the Trump plan, it's all about cutting taxes for everyone, especially for businesses and people who make a lot of money. So for him, he wants to extend the tax plan that he put in place when he was president in 2017, called the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which I'm not really sure how many people are familiar with this. I think everybody has felt the effects of it, but I'm not sure how many people understand that this was something that was like a drastic change to parts of our tax code. But anyway, so that particular act reduced taxes for individuals and corporations in 2017. He would like to try to extend that. And he also wants to repeal what's called the SALT cap, which is the state and local taxes. And this trickle down effect basically allows wealthier individuals in high tax states to pay less in federal taxes. So simply put, if we were to compare the two plans side by side, just think that the Harris plan will raise taxes on the wealthy, especially on their investments. And a Trump plan is to cut taxes for everyone, especially on the wealthy individual and businesses. So thoughts?
So it sounds like the both of them are focused on the wealthy, which, okay.
Yes.
I don't know that I know what their definition of wealthy is. I'm curious to know what both of their definitions are of wealthy, because the last I checked, wealthy was considered 250,000 a year or more.
So that's interesting you asked that, because I believe from hearing like just all of the talks and everything, I feel like it's always been pretty like much defined around $1 million. So
Okay.
wealthy for Harris and probably wealthy for Trump as well is really just using that $1 million mark. So, I mean, if you think about that, like, I mean, it sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Right?
It doesn't. It doesn't, though. Okay,
Yeah, right. In this day and age.
let's put this in perspective. Let's put it into perspective, because we are in Northern Virginia. Now, I also want to point out that I am not a $1 million earner. So this is not me defending the $1 million earners. This is me trying to broaden the lens a little bit. We do live in Northern Virginia, where homes even in my neighborhood, where I don't live in some like area, I live in a pretty normal, run of the mill, middle of the range neighborhood where homes average $1 million, which is bizarro to me. So if a house is going for $1 million here, which is not unusual in most of Northern Virginia, how much are people making a year, right? So, and these are homes that were built 50 years ago. If you're looking at areas like, say, McLean or Clifton or areas of Vienna or Oakton or Arlington, any of those areas, those homes are going for a lot more. How much are they making? Now, are they considered high wealth individuals?
Well, I guess there's two parts of what you just said. It's kind of important. I think oftentimes, you know, the context to what we hear about budget plans or any of our presidential candidate plans, it's always relative to where we're living, right? In our experience. So we always think, oh, like everybody else in the United States must be at the same income level and the same. I mean, you don't think that, but you kind of feel that, because unless like you're actually living in a place like San Francisco or New York City or Washington, D.C., you know, your perspective is very different than somebody who may be living in, I don't know, like Kansas City or something. Well, that's probably a bad example, but like a smaller town, right?
Right.
But these plans, and this is what's so tough, is that these are federal plans, right? So it's not like a state by state decision or tax.
Right.
So this is kind of like a blanket plan for everyone. So it's going to affect everybody very different depending on where you live. And to your point, while owning a house that has $1 million or more may not instantly classify you as wealthy, because it's really about income. Just think, like, when you sell that house, you'll be like, your transaction will be considered wealthy and you will be taxed at a higher rate, or you'll be affected rather by these plans when you sell that house. And to your point, where we live, and probably a lot of people in LA, San Francisco, these like very expensive cities, it just takes like you'd almost have no choice. Just about everybody probably is close to that 1 million mark when it comes to if you want a home here, right? A single family home. Like, we're not talking about some freaking mansion.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about just a regular, like, you know, home for a family of 4 can easily be at $1 million, if not more, especially with appreciation over the years. And you wouldn't think that this type of tax would affect what you would normally deem as ordinary people. But because of the city we live in, we would be seen as wealthy because of just by the sheer fact that we live in this area. So I think that's always an interesting perspective to think about.
For me, the thing that concerns me for what Harris has proposed is her taxation focus on investments, and my focus, or rather my concern, on Trump's focus on taxes. Well, cutting taxes on businesses, but what kind of cut is he talking about? So let's talk about the Harris raising tax on investments. So I'm assuming that must mean retirement investments, bonds,
dividends.
Yeah, exactly.
Dividends, real estate investments, anything that you, what'd you say?
Yeah, any kind of investment.
Yeah, any kind of investments. And then it's also interesting because, this is where I feel like it ties into small business owners, because it also affects small business owners who, if you sell your business and it's valued over $1 million, right? Then you get affected also by the tax plans for both of the candidates, right? Because you're considered wealthy. Now, if we kind of think about businesses in general, everybody is, it's always been a goal for a lot of businesses to get over the 7-figure mark. It might not be everybody's goal, but it is a very popular goal to get over the 7-figure mark. But think about it. This is also talking about you selling your business at $1 million. Now, you don't necessarily have to be making $1 million for you to sell your business at $1 million. Somebody may be able to want to pay certain multiples for it just because you have something that valuable that'll push you over the $1 million mark. So if you cross over that, then, you would kind of be directly impacted by a lot of what we're talking about here today.
And it also makes me wonder, with Trump cutting taxes for businesses, is that going to then force states to raise taxes to make up any kind of difference? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I feel like, all of this just means we're just going to go to deficit more. That's all it means.
Totally.
Our debt is just going to keep going up. Right. Whether you cut taxes or you tax on the wealthier, right? Like if you're redistributing that in the sense that you're taxing the wealthier, but you're lowering the taxes for the middle to lower income, like there's still, it's not like we're making even more than what we spend, right? We're not taxing more than what we spend. We're just going to take on more debt to cover the gap. And, all in all, like, maybe it's going to be great for the next 10, 20 years, but at some point, that's going to catch up to us, right? Maybe not this generation, but it'll certainly catch up to the next generation.
Right.
So, that's also something to contend with. But the interesting part is for both of them, they both are going to end up adding to the national debt. It's just a matter of who adds more.
Let's be honest. It doesn't matter who's running for president. It could be Ronald McDonald and he's going to be adding to the debt. Everybody's going to be adding to the debt. There's nothing we can do about that at this point.
Yeah, because we've been for years now, right? Like we're spending more than we're bringing in. That's
always
really what it is. So because we're spending more than we bring in, just like in any business, if you're spending more than what you bring in, what are you going to do? Well, you got to find funding from somewhere. So you start borrowing. And so that's what we do as a nation is we borrow. Right. Yeah. And at some point that's going to come calling. I don't know when, but someday.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say until then, we just kind of just keep piling it up.
Right. God. Okay. So now do we talk about spending?
Well, since we're on the topic of spending, let's talk about how the two candidates want to spend.
Yes.
For the Harris plan, the plan is very focused on spending on things like social programs, things that are very much aimed at lower to middle income family. This is like spending and giving people more benefits or financial assistance or government services to, again, directed at lower to middle income groups. And for the Trump plan, it's not so much about spending more for the government, but it's more of letting people keep money in their own pockets so they themselves can basically spend more. So through his tax cuts, the idea is that because we're paying less taxes, we as consumers has more money in our own pockets, and then we would go out and consume and spend that. And so that's, for his plan it's not really like, let's spend more government money, but let's just lower the taxes. Other people will have more money in their pockets, and then they in turn will spend and consume.
So this is where literally their true colors begin to show, right? Democratic idealism has been in the modern sense, has always been more government support or to look to the government to support.
Yep.
And Republican, most modern idealism has always been look to the state, look to the individual, look to the county, look to the city, more small government. And this is where you are seeing an example of that idealism, right? Kamala Harris
they're staying pretty true to their party. Party ideals.
She's saying, let's create more government programs. Let's create more assistance for these people. Whereas Trump is saying, let's not. How about instead, let's get these people to keep more of their money so that they can make their own decisions as to how they want to spend or save or do whatever they're going to do with their money.
Yeah.
So instead of the government providing you with a can of soup, let's give a person the money so that they can buy their own can of soup is basically what we're looking at here, right?
Yes. I mean, and like you were saying, I mean, this is what the party lines of, like the party ideals have always been, right? At its core,
Right.
a lot of like this really represents what each of the parties have always represented themselves at. I mean, at least in a, like you said, the recent history, right? And so, this speaks pretty true to that. And I mean, a lot of this is also where a lot of disagreements come from. Is that because obviously they're pretty opposite. But if you think about it, like it's interesting. Like it's almost like two ways of coming at the same problem, but the effects of the solution is largely the same when you come. Like the impact of what they want to do on the economy all kind of comes out to be the same, right? So with the Harris plan, in a short term, of course, lower and middle income families will benefit from more help from the government. But then in the long run, the economy is still going to slow down, the wages are still going to drop, and we're still going to incur more debt as a nation. Right. And then on the Trump plan, in the short term, of course, everybody benefits from lower taxes. But in the long run, the economy will slow down, the wages will drop, and then we're going to go into more debt.
Exactly. So in speaking to a small business, it's like, okay, so think about this while you're listening to us. Would you prefer your government to give you, your federal government, to give you more opportunities, to give you more assistance? Or would you want your government to take less money from you so that you can provide your own,
seek your own opportunities?
Yeah. Now, there are people who agree and disagree with both, right? There are people who think that the government should have more control and take more autonomy over its citizens and tell them what to do and how to do it. But that we as human beings should not have as much control over our own selves as we do. Whereas, on the other hand, people think the exact opposite of that. That the government should not be telling me what I can and cannot do. I want to forge my own path. There are dangers to both lines of thinking. Especially when you are running your own business. I mean, how many times? I mean, that was the birth of our podcast was, hey, just because you own a business doesn't mean you're a business owner, buddy. You need to learn how to be a business owner. So just because a person decides that they wake up one day and want to be a business owner, there are still rules and regulations. There's still a road that needs to be created for that journey. Who do you want that road to be created by, you or the government?
Yeah, I think like the important part is knowing that both candidates affect us in the immediate term. Whoever goes in office, right? So just kind of keeping that down, and also keeping in mind that long-term wise, I mean, it's going to affect everybody. It's certainly going to affect the future generation. It's going to affect them in pretty similar ways, regardless of what the short-term benefit or outcome or deficit, however you want to call it, will be, right? And so that's the one thing that I feel like gets really lost in a lot of these discussions. And, it just becomes so complicated and convoluted that, until we decided to do this episode, I feel like I wasn't even clear as to what the short-term, long-term impact and outcome are. And it's tough. But like you said, it comes down to the end of the day is, I mean, gosh, I want to say there's no wrong answer, but I'm pretty sure the right and left will disagree.
Yeah. No.
Right. But the truth of the matter is these are the two options we have. So.
No, you're right. These are the two options we have. We cannot change this. You don't get an option C. There is no door 3. Yeah. So, you have to, you don't have to agree with 100% of what either candidate has to give you. And also remember that these are proposed plans. They can easily die as soon as they get into office, depending on who's in the house. That's true. We are a constitutional republic, so it's not like the president gets 100% of the say in anything.
Things will change.
Right. So, but we do need to make sure that our line of thinking is aligned with the nominee's line of thinking. So.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's, our listeners are all small business owners, as you and I are. At the end of the day, you want your business to survive and thrive.
Right.
So being educated or knowledgeable or read up on these different plans and what the potential impact would be will kind of help you better prepare, kind of figure out how you want to position your company Because like, for example, we've always talked about like, what is it that you're building to basically keep, and I'm building to sell, right? My businesses will be built to sell. And so having a definition of selling, which gosh, I hope I sell over $1 million multiple times over the next few years. These kind of changes to the plans and definition of wealthy and what the budgetary, like the tax brackets are and things like that has a direct impact. A huge impact that will certainly go into my deal making and negotiations, because we have to account for that. And businesses today, same thing. If you're sitting here and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to sell my business in the next 5 to 10 years, well, then you better be paying attention to all of these presidential elections in the future, because what they decide and the laws they pass, especially for taxes, will directly impact how much you're going to make on your business and what your exit is. And all that has to get figured in.
Right. Absolutely correct. We are still feeling the effects of choices Clinton made. Not saying that they were positive or negative. I'm just saying that Ronald Reagan made. We are still feeling the effects of those, because once the decision has been made and agreed upon, it gets set in stone, and then there it is. So,
and we're even more recently, for people who may not have been alive during those times, right? If you want to feel something pretty recent, I mean, we're still feeling the economic impact of decisions made during COVID. Meaning, let's just say even the, what was the COVID, like, I can't remember what it was called, like the checks that everybody got to help stimulate the economy during COVID.
You mean EIDL? Do you mean the EIDL?
No, everybody got it. Like, everybody got it, not just
I thought you were talking business-wise.
No, everybody got the benefit checks.
Yep. I don't remember the name of that, but I know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. Well, that, and even say the idle loans and the PPP loans, those things are great, but they have effects, and we're feeling the effects now. It just may not have been talked about or so commonly connected, but giving businesses money, giving individuals money like that to stimulate the economy has downstream effects, and we're living those effects today. Absolutely. So that's why I think we feel like, we have to understand what this means to all small businesses, small business owners, of course, individuals as well, because we're living in it.
Absolutely. So you may notice that we are wearing entirely different clothing, and we look very different. That's because we had to step away from our last episode, because we both felt that we were going to a place that was going to make us appear more biased in one or the other direction. And we want to be as mindful as we can be to not share our biased opinions with you. We want you to make as much of a choice, a decision that is yours and yours alone, based on the information that we hand you. Since our last recording, both hurricanes have unfortunately taken lives and livelihoods away from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people. We're speaking of Helene and Milton. We want to leave our listeners with this thought. Think about how many businesses and livelihoods were affected. Entire towns were completely decimated. Businesses completely fell into earth. And how do you come back from that? I want you to do some research as to your party, the one you lean towards, as to how they responded to the people who were affected. Of course, FEMA is a part of that. However, both candidates and people that are in office had opportunities to respond and to act. And some did not. And we want you to pay attention to that, to know that when something so terrible happens on our own land, how do we take care of us? We do a great job of taking care of other people in other countries. Kudos to us. But how did we respond to the people here? Take that, and please do your research. Not just what we have to offer, but do your own research as well.
Well said.
Well, thank you.
And with that,
And with that, we do have some recommendations for you, and some of these recommendations are links, and I'm going to put on my glasses because I can't see. So as opposed to saying that put your money where your mouth is, kind of want to tell you to, put your money where your mouth is, but in a different format. Put your ballot in the, I don't know. Anyway.
In the box. Put your ballot in a box.
In any case, we will be posting the official campaign sites for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And then there are 4 nonpartisan political websites that we will also include in there. There are a few news outlets that tend to be very centric in their positions. So please go ahead and choose the ones, or choose them all, to do some research. And then from there, we also have government and public policy resources and social media platforms for you to visit on both candidates, so that you can get a better sense and do a more thorough and balanced look at the candidates and their platforms. And with that, this was stressful.
This is more difficult than we had thought it was going to be originally, for sure.
It really was. But you know what?
It's definitely a mental challenge.
It really was. But you know what? We really, really enjoy talking. We do this. There have been so many times where we've talked so much that we ran out of time to record. So we really like this format, and we want to continue utilizing it. And if you like it, please let us know. Hit the like buttons, hit the follow buttons, tell all of your friends about us. Our show is on all of your preferred podcast platforms, social media, and YouTube. We'd love for you to also share our episodes and have your own conversation. All of our links are posted below. And until next time, mind the business behind your business, because all great successes start small.